And continuing our look at all things Azalea Festival, Fran Summerlin has been gardening her entire life and truly loves the work. She prefers to spend time in the garden every day and looks forward to getting in the dirt. Over the years, she's expanded her garden for more and more people to enjoy, namely her grandchildren who have their own art shed out back. She hopes that everyone who stops by her garden loves it as much as she does.
You walk around and you say, I love my garden, but will other people love my garden? So I've worked really hard to incorporate some art and some other ideas, trying to fluff it out a little bit.
You can fall in love with Fran's garden this weekend. The Cape Fear Garden Club Azalea Garden Tour runs Friday through Sunday. And on the garden side of tours this weekend, how about this? 77 acres and 100,000 azaleas. It is no wonder that Airlie Gardens is a yearly staple of the Azalea Garden Tour. From the grand Airlie Oak and Swan Nest to the camellias and of course the azaleas, everything about Airlie makes it the quintessential southern garden. You really could walk around the grounds every day and still find something new to be wowed by. In fact, Scott Childs does just that. He has been with Airlie Gardens for 5 years and says he is still taking it all in.
It's 77 acres, yeah. It's going to be longer than 5 years. I'm still learning stuff every day out here. There's plants that I walk by and don't even notice them. There's so many different plants out here.
Now, if you want to see all the plants that Airlie has to offer, it is part of the Cape Fear Garden Club Azalea Garden Tour that is this Saturday and Sunday. Turning to the Azalea Festival, Barton Hatcher comes from a family of gardeners and works as a professional landscaper, but he's also a contemporary artist. This comes through when you walk around his garden, which is bursting with color and energy. You'll see more than flowers while touring his garden. His own paintings and sculptures will also be on display. Of course, as an artist, his work is always growing and always heartfelt.
The garden's been evolving for the last 16 years. And this year, what's going to be new in the garden is the arbor that's across the front and the little bridges that we put in. And of course, I've got a garden that's dedicated to a friend of mine that passed away.
You can check out Barton's artistic talents with the Cape Fear Garden Club Azalea Garden Tour, which runs today through Sunday.
Cheryl Bond's garden at 1301 Johns Creek Road is almost as bright and colorful as Cheryl herself. A free spirit and master gardener, she's created a space that seems to have a life of its own and is part of this weekend's Azalea Garden Tour. It includes a funky vegetable garden, lounging areas, the pool and bar, and her greenhouse. All of these things come together to create the overall effect of a welcoming and energetic home.
I do particularly love the old-timey heritage flowers. I have quite a few from my great-grandmother, my grandmother's, my mother's, family and friends. So as I walk around in my gardens, I actually call them their names. I have them named, and I talk to my flowers.
Nothing wrong with that. You can get to know Cheryl and her garden, her flowers. It's on the Cape Fear Garden Club Azalea Garden Tour, which runs Friday through Sunday.
Linda McCrae says she had no prior gardening experience when she started working on her own garden. Instead, she relied on her intuition while designing each space throughout the garden, and now it's on the Azalea Garden Tour. Look at that. That's beautiful. Her goal was for her garden to be a relaxing experience and to create a serene feeling for visitors. Unlike in most yards, you won't find any grass in Linda's. What you will find is what she refers to as her outdoor rooms. Each of them is filled with plant life, artwork, fountains, and plenty of seating.
All of them are kind of meditative and a sort of serene feeling because I wanted the garden to be a relaxing experience. So I was careful with choice of colors. I didn't want anything that would be real stark and hit you in the face kind of thing. So everything is designed for relaxation.
I like that the sound of that. The Cape Fear Garden Club Azalea Garden Tour runs today through Sunday. 7 years in the making, Lolly and Paul Lewis's garden at 1802 Chestnut Street in Wilmington is bursting with wonder, and it is featured on this year's Azalea Garden Tour. Small artistic details set throughout the garden help the flowers pop. This helps the garden be a vibrant experience for every visitor. From azaleas to tomatoes, there's a place for everything here.
When you look at a garden, I think it should resemble a painting that is very impressionistic. So you have these colors that are coming out from all different directions, just like brushstrokes.
How beautiful. Now, if you would like to set your eyes on these sights, this Cape Fear Garden Club Azalea Garden Tour runs Friday through Sunday. Magnolia Farms is a true hidden gem, and it is a stop on this weekend's Azalea Garden Tour. Tucked behind the entrance wall at 102 Forest Lane is a 20-acre equestrian estate, which is almost like two entire gardens in one stop. It includes the barn and horse farm, where the horses enjoy their time in the pasture. Back in their own yard, Suzanne Edwards has created a garden full of whimsy and delight. And although she's only been gardening for 5 years, her garden is very close to her heart because this property was handed down from her grandmother.
And this also was my grandparents' property. They didn't do the horses, but it was my grandparents. So, I just think my grandmother would love this if she could see this now.
Now, you can admire Suzanne's hard work and her wonderful horses during the Cape Fear Garden Club Azalea Garden Tour. It starts this Friday and runs through Sunday. The Keenan Wise grounds hold a classic Southern garden inside. UNCW's Chancellor's Home and Alumni House on Market Street are part of this year's Azalea Garden Tour. Spanish moss dangling from the trees frames the flower beds, including several azaleas. But what sets the Keenan house apart, it has to be the white garden. It is a place of quiet, tucked away from the bustle of downtown. A grand fountain is perfectly offset with small, delicate items throughout the garden. With everything dressed in white and surrounded by green, every piece comes together here. That is very, very beautiful. And at the Azalea Garden Tour, this year for the first time, there's a garden on Pleasure Island. Scott Colquhoun has been traveling between his home in California and his home in Carolina Beach over the past year to prepare for the garden tour. He doesn't mind, though, since he fell in love with Wilmington and the surrounding area during an azalea festival a few years ago. His love for the area has turned into hard work in the garden, and he says he's simply honored to be part of the tour.
Being in Wilmington and being a part of Azalea Festival means a lot to me because I've been on the garden tours several times, and I really respect and appreciate those who have poured their hearts out into their gardens.
You can take in the sea air and admire his garden in Carolina Beach soon. The Cape Fear Garden Club Azalea Garden Tour runs today through Sunday.